are the very best late round fantasy football tight ends ahead of 2026? Let's find out. That's my goal for today, going through again the history of the position and what has led to the top performing late round tight ends, and then applying those lessons exactly to the 2026 landscape and coming with my top 3 favorite options. So accordingly, guys, let's get after it. Again, looking at the history of the position first with the top performers that come in later rounds. Since we go back to 2017, which is the latest I could find, the ESPN ADP. Kind of ridiculous in the year 2026 that we can't find pre-2016 ADP, but I digress. Anyway, guys, 18 different tight ends since 2017 scored at least 12 plus PPR points per game with a minimum of 8 games played. And here's a cherry on top, were the tight end 10 or later when they were originally drafted. So again, you can find a ton of guys that are basically within a point or so of each other. Like you do look at the landscape last season, the difference between the tight end 7 and the tight end 16 was only 1.5 PPR points. So I'm not really trying to replace, okay, the tight end 8 with the tight end 13. We know they're close. We're trying to look for the above and beyond, the 12 plus PPR guys who actively needed to be in your lineup once you were lucky enough to get them in the later rounds. So with that all in mind, 5 key lessons from this takeaway. First of all, new offense, new me, not really a problem for these tight ends, okay? 5 of the 18 qualified, again, high performing late round tight ends were in a new situation. We had veterans joining new teams like 2024 Jonnu Smith following along his just absolute BFF Arthur Smith to the Miami Dolphins. 2018 Eric Ebron doing this thing, okay? Talented rookies coming to the fold has become even more and more common in recent years. But yes, 2023 Sam Laporta and 2024 Brock Bowers applied. And in one kind of weird case, Darren Waller, when he was getting going, switched from wide receiver to tight end and really was booming in his initial season with the Raiders. So again, new offense, while for a lot of positions can be a sign that, hey, you weren't good enough to stick around your previous team. For tight end, we have seen more than a few examples of these tight ends finding a new team and thriving in fantasy land. Next up, we do have to note that high scoring offense, not necessarily required, guys. And this was actually something where, if you know me at all, my name's Ian Hartitz, appreciate you, but I hate kickers. I don't know why they get the kind of love they do. They get the benefit of the doubt they do. Like they have one job. You take 3 steps and you kick the freaking ball, all right? Brandon Aubrey, basically the best kicker alive. Couldn't make it as a soccer player. You can even call him a reject. His girlfriend was watching a game. I think now his wife, shout out, congrats on the sex, watching a game. And they were like, Brandon Aubrey, you can make that kick. Why don't you do it? He said, yeah, good idea. Started to train. Now he's making way more as an NFL kicker. Why don't more bad soccer players do it? I don't know. Good question. We should. Anyway, I was doing a little bit of kicker research last summer, and I actually stumbled upon this scoring rank chart, which you can see here on the handy dandy slide, which shows you the correlation between high performing fantasy success and their team's offensive scoring ranks. So if you're a quarterback, if you're a running back, you guys see those very high positive correlations. Yes, we want you to be inside these super high scoring offenses, but for wide receivers, tight ends, and yes, kickers as well, which I had to kind of figure out there, it doesn't matter nearly as much as you think. In fact, that plus 0.08 correlation for tight ends, pretty much negligible at the end of the day. So we do see is backed up where, again, these late round high scoring tight ends, average team scoring rank was just 16th. The median was 17.5. You do not need to be in an elite scoring offense to be a great fantasy tight end, particularly if you're not dealing with a ton of target competition. That does, again, kind of take us to our next idea, though, where the less competition is the better, okay, guys? Because, again, you do look at some of the top performers, and almost all these guys didn't have big-time wide receiver competition. Usually there was one player, okay, that you had to kind of worry about. More often than not, we did not see tight ends thriving with multiple high-end wide receivers next to them. There were some exceptions, all right? 2021, Rob Gronkowski was dealing with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown, but he had to go throwing him the football. 2025, Dallas Goedert had A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, but his goal line usage, absolutely asinine, guys. I'll probably bring it up again by the time this video is over, but I think it was 9 of his 13 touchdowns were inside the 5 or 10 yard line. They were all in these weird shovel passes and stuff. They gave him like a jet sweep in the wild card round, lost to the 49ers, Dallas Goedert scoring. So, kudos to him for scoring those touchdowns, but they were the most freaking replaceable nonsense scores I have ever seen. 2021, Dalton Schultz got it done with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Again, as you can see, if we are going to have the extra target competition, we usually need a pretty good quarterback attached to it, and that is reflected with Austin Hooper in 2019 with Matt Ryan, and Jonnu Smith a little bit with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, a little bit of of a unique situation where Tua was just kind of, dumping the ball down more and more as he's done later in his career. So in general, though, less competition, the better, particularly if we are, again, not going to be in a high-octane scoring offense. Lesson number 4 from this study, No Country for Old Men, incredible movie. Do yourself a favor, pause this video, go watch that movie, and then come back if you haven't seen it already. But yes, for these, again, late-round tight ends who, again, not saying you can't pull off this tight end 10, tight end 11 borderline, season as an older tight end. Travis Kelce, age 36 last year, still finished as a tight end 9, even though he's obviously a shell of himself. But we are big game hunting today. And with that in mind, we do not want tight ends who are too long in the tooth. So average age of this 18 tight end cohort, 26.7 years, median age even younger at 25. That's consistent with the findings where, again, you kind of see the top performing tight ends over time in fantasy land be between that age 25 to age 27 years. So there is some survivorship bias to this. Okay, we obviously have a larger sample of 25 to 27-year-old tight ends in the NFL as opposed to 30-plus players, but I digress. Only 4 tight ends have, again, appeared in this late round top performing cohort, being age 30-plus or more. 2024 Taysom Hill, if you guys have played fantasy football for literally just a year, you probably know all too well how annoying Taysom Hill can be. So, of course, he had to pop up in this study somewhere. 2021 Gronk again. 2018 Jared Cook. He was a very receiving-friendly option for several teams throughout his career. And then again, 2025 Dallas Goedert getting it done with that goal line usage. Last big takeaway before we get to some actual, guys to look for in 2026, guys, is the reality that there are some outliers here. Again, like anything, we're not going to have this one-size-fits-all metric. So I didn't want to say that there were 4 tight ends who kind of buck these key trends, okay? Looking at players where, yeah, they can go into a new offense and get a new role. Also find some that have the thin competition. Still have a handful of guys who, again, were not in a new offense and had ample pass game competition. And again, what do we see? Hooper, Schultz, and Gronk, Matt Ryan, Dak, and Tom Brady, of course, really freaking good quarterbacks, and they were able to overcome some of the other deficiencies, the lackluster, competition, target projections, all that, through efficiency with those quarterbacks. And then there's freaking Dallas Goedert, again, continuing to poke his stupid freaking head into this study. Just kidding, Dallas Goedert's a man, but you guys know what I'm saying. Guys, what did we learn here? Rules for drafting a stud late round tight end. 1, show me something, okay? Must have demonstrated at least some receiving upside in their career or be a fairly lauded draft prospect, but I feel like those go hand in hand, okay? When Brock Bowers and Sam Laporta broke out, we still knew them to be, again, good quality receiving prospects, particularly for Mr. Brock Bowers. Rule number 2, embrace the new offenses. Again, it's one of these situations where, yeah, a lot of times we don't see, tight ends or wide receivers or really any high, performing player. They typically don't hit free agency. They either get re-signed or they get traded. But when we do see some of these, again, receiving friendly tight ends hit new offenses, sometimes it opens up a newfound role. We have all of a sudden new competition to worry about. In a lot of cases, it can be lesser than what the tight end was dealing with before. Rule number 3, the offense rank, again, matters less than you think. We don't necessarily need a super high scoring offense, especially if there's not a lot of extra target competition to be worrying about. And then rule number 4, mind the age, okay? We don't want to be attacking these older folks just for, again, shooting for the moon here. If you're waiting until round 15, we can get Travis Kelce there or whatever. Like, okay, I get it. He goes earlier than round 15, so maybe a bad example. But again, nothing wrong with getting tight end 9 production, but if we are trying to find these outliers, trying to find the true late round booms, I am going to be trying to get tight ends that are not, again, too old at this point in time. So now looking at actual ADP guys over at Underdog Fantasy, where everyone is sick enough to be drafting right now, including myself. So always a fun time if you're into that kind of thing. I'm looking at tight ends again, as we've been doing with the study, tight end 10 or later. Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, I think they are like tight end 10 and 11. So honestly, probably already could have excluded them anyway, because they're barely on that border of being a top 10 or a late round tight end in the first place. But yeah, Kelce 37 in October, Andrews 31 in September, and Goddard 32 in January. It's not just the age, it's the fact that in Kelce's case, we've seen the yak stuff declining for years. Kind of bounced back a little bit last year, but let's face it, 37. He's out for me. Mark Andrews, my God, maybe it was just I think it was 2023, late season, leg injury. Maybe being an extra year removed is going to be helping with that. But 31 in September, I know Isaiah Likely's out of the picture now, guys. Maybe we do see, a return to form. He did score a lot of touchdowns as recently as 2024, but just when I see so much decline all over the place with his per target, per route, all the efficiency metrics we care about, really tough for me to think that Mark Andrews, again, still has that top 5, top 6 high-end season in him. And then with Goddard, done freaking talking about this guy here. So I think we can all agree on that one. Not saying he couldn't be a low-end tight end 1, but I would be very surprised if he has a top 5 upside season in him. Other tight ends that are late round options that could be fine, but I just really doubt their chances of breaking the top 6 because there's too much target competition and mad good offenses. Aranda Gadsden, Bretton Strange, those are the 2 here where I really debated maybe not including them in this because we do have Justin Herbert and Mike McDaniel. We also have Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen. Like, those are 2 of the passing games where I think there could be enough meat on the bone for multiple parties to be able to eat into it. But at the same time, Gadsden, we know Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson are going to be leading the wide receiver room. And then adding David Njoku, guys, just really makes it tough for me to be able to get too, head over heels for Gadsden. So I know Harold Fannin managed to do things just fine, even with David Njoku, being the incumbent starter in Cleveland and everything. But just, I am very kind of dubious, I would say, that Gadsden's going to emerge as anything more than the third banana in this Justin Herbert-led attack. And then with Bretton Strange, again, there's no real competition to worry about. Overly, relevant receiving competition, I guess, at tight end. But 4-pronged wide receiver room with BTJ, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, and Travis Hunter. Enough, again, just parties in that offense that I do think will be good. But again, expecting Bretton Strange to be the 4th, maybe even sometimes the 5th most relevant pass game option there. Otherwise, I don't think these next guys are going to be as controversial, but A.J. Barner, Cade Otton, Kenyon Sadiq, Juwan Johnson, T.J. Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, and Pat Freiermuth have a mix of a lot of competition, have a mix of not necessarily, kind of looking at you, Cade Otton and Dalton Schultz, being the guys that were overly thrilled about their talent in the first place. And then in several of these cases, looking at Kenyon Sadiq with Geno Smith, Pat Freiermuth with the old man Aaron Rodgers, even someone like T.J. Hawkinson with the artist known as 9, and then whatever Kyler Murray is in the year 2026. We just don't have good enough quarterbacks, so I think feel good enough about these guys ripping off the high-end season. So with that in mind, guys, it is time to choose our fighter, okay? We are looking at the top late-round tight ends, and I do believe that these 7 guys going outside the top 10 tight ends in ADP right now have the sort of profile that historically we have seen lead to some true boom. So we have Jake Ferguson sitting there as tight end 11 in early ADP, Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, Hunter Henry, Chig Okonkwo, Gunnar Helm, and Greg Dulcich. Again, are young enough, or in Hunter Henry's case, have been performing well enough to believe that they are still at least somewhat in their prime years. They're in offenses that we can at least be either feeling good enough about their scoring upside to make up for a lack of projected targets, or in several of these cases, we have enough projected targets to make up for the lack of offensive upside. And again, in each and every one of these cases, we do have guys who I objectively believe to be good receivers of the football. So with that in mind, we're going to go through these top 7, and I will be revealing who my top 3 favorite options are in order of this group. And spoiler, Jake Ferguson is going to be first, but he is not one of my top 3 options for hopefully getting this top 6 season. So, hey, bull case, the good case, I'm sure you all know that for some reason, bull versus bears tripped me up throughout my entire life. I have to continue Googling it, even though I know what it is at this point. But anyway, bull case for Jake Ferguson, all right? He gets triple-digit targets for the 3rd time in as many years with a healthy Dak Prescott, okay? We've seen that out of him. Dak's under center doing his thing. As we know, Dak yearly kind of candidate to lead the league in passing yards, maybe even touchdowns if he has things go his way as well. Jake Ferguson, he could realistically score double-digit touchdowns in the NFL's top-scoring offense. I don't think it would be super shocking, so that would be the bull case. But the bear case, and I do think the more realistic case here, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, they stay healthy, leading to far more good than great days for Jake Ferguson, who's, again, 2025 efficiency numbers were rough. So this is the ultimate kind of decider for me, and it's why I'm out on Jake Ferguson being one of the top late-round tight ends. Guys, 18.6 PPR points per game for Jake Ferguson without CeeDee Lamb last season, but with them in the lineup, fell all the way to 9.4 PPR points per game. He didn't look good doing it. 5.9 yards per target. That is absolutely atrocious. I respect, I guess, might be kind of mean, could call them hospital balls, but I respect Dak Prescott's willingness to target his tight end down the seam no matter how tight the coverage. But just, again, Jake Ferguson, I feel like he was even benefiting from Dak being one of the more aggressive gunslingers in the league. Maybe a lesser quarterback, we're not even seeing Ferguson get those same amount of targets. So, again, this passing game, it runs through CeeDee, it runs through Pickens. I even think Ryan Flournoy, if one of those guys go down, could potentially be a little bit more involved than we've seen in past years. Jake Ferguson is an injury away from actually being in that top 5, top 6. Not, again, something I'm going to be necessarily banking my whole bankroll on as a contingent injury upside bet. So Jake Ferguson not making my top 3, but you know who is? Dalton Kincaid. I am ready to get hurt again. All right, guys, Dalton Kincaid right now. Here's my argument for Dalton Kincaid. Last season, part-time role, it annoyed us all. We saw it, too much Dawson Knox. Jackson Hall is coming under center. Like, it's the whole Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert thing again in Buffalo. It's like, oh, who caught that ball? Oh, three tight ends, number 80. Oh, three white tight ends. Who is it? And you're guessing the entire time. Not Dalton Kincaid when you have Dalton Kincaid, whatever. So last year, though, all that going on, finishes tight end 14, PPR points per game. Actually, scores a touchdown in both playoff games. The per route, the advanced nerdy efficiency numbers, guys, borderline erotic. Absolutely incredible stuff going on from Dalton Kincaid last year. We're talking about a yards per route run number, which again, just on its basis, all right, what do we have the largest sample of for pass catchers? It's routes, all right? It's not targets, it's not receptions, it's routes. That's our largest number, all right? It's at bats, baseball equivalent. Routes are our largest number. How many yards do you get per route? Only Puka Nacua and freaking Jackson Smith and the Jig by average more yards per route run than Dalton Kincaid. Those are wide receivers, guys. That's how freaking efficient Kincaid was. His passer rating when targeted was awesome. Like, Kincaid, from an efficiency standpoint, he had the breakout in 2025. He just wasn't quite on the field long enough because of injury, because of some of this rotation, to actually convert that into big-time fantasy points. But we know Kincaid, very talented. That's why he's in that conversation with Puka and JSN. Former first-round pick, all right? We can all agree Dalton Kincaid is a very talented receiving first tight end, all right? We love the offense. 6 years running, Joe Brady, Josh Allen partnership, top 6 in scoring, all right? That's objectively a really good scoring environment. We love the quarterback, Josh Allen. Amazing quarterback. We don't need to dive into this. The one issue is the workload. Why was Dalton Kincaid not getting more reps on the field? Because the target competition isn't bad. We're not terrified of Dawson Knox and Jackson Halls. Maybe DJ Moore does his best, 2004 Musa Muhammad impression. I've been looking up a lot of Pro Football Reference game logs recently, guys. It's a hell of a drug. I can't quit it. I don't want to quit it. Maybe DJ Moore takes over, but Khalil Shakir, okay, I'm not terrified there. Also just had ankle surgery. Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, the target competition in the wide receiver room isn't terrifying. The only question is, will the Bills play Dalton Kincaid more? And when we go back and we hear some of murmurs from Brady, murmurs from their GM, why was he not playing more? It's because they knew his PCL was certain. He wasn't healthy enough to go out there and actually handle a full game snap. So what they do? They limited him. It was load management for Dalton Kincaid. And I don't think it's a given that it's going to be happening for next season. And guess what? What if it is? Then we're drafting the guy who finished as a tight end 14 as a tight end 13. This is the definition of buying someone closer to their floor than their ceiling, because I kid you not, guys, any fantasy analyst in the industry, any of us alleged experts out there, all right, if we get through week 1 and the Bills say, hey, Dalton Kincaid, you know what? You're a best receiver, man. We're going to give you not a 50% route rate. We're going to play you for 75% of the routes. Dalton Kincaid will be a top 5 tight end immediately going into week 2. All right. No, I don't think he's going to pass Loveland or probably even Tyler Warren. Definitely not Bowers and McBride just yet, but I don't know. Down the stretch, we can't assume I don't think he's going to continue posting the same elite, numbers up with Puka and JSN. All right. If we are going to be seeing him with the more routes. 50% three-point shooter on 4 attempts per game. Is he going to keep shooting 50% on 8 attempts per game? I acknowledge that. We got a long way to fall, okay, from Puka and JSN. And we can fall off like an entire yard and still be amongst some very elite tight ends. So I just feel like with Kincaid, what's the more likely outcome? Yeah, it's probably what we've seen similarly. Joe Brady still leading the offense. Josh Allen still a QB. Dawson Knox, Jackson Hall's still in town and everything. But it is that injury factor. We have heard from Kincaid. We have heard from Brady. We've heard from the Bills that he is actually apparently in the best shape of his life. Teams never say that in the offseason, and they say that every offseason. I get it. So you do dig in a little more. Dr. Jeff Mueller, shout out at JamThrivePT, fantastic Twitter follow. There's reason to believe Kincaid's stronger. He's bigger. He's built up his knee better. I'm not a doctor, but Kincaid said neither is he. And he went to a lot of doctors, and they told him the best way to recover this is not going through surgery. It seems like he's been doing everything possible to be in a better position for the Bills to want to play him full time, which they want to do. They've said they want to do. The reason they haven't is because they've been managing the pain. So Dalton Kincaid, again, he checks so many boxes. And for me, the one box he doesn't check is completely why he's being priced freaking outside the first 10 rounds. He's nearly going in round 12 in these fantasy drafts, guys. The wide receivers and running backs going along Kincaid, we're talking pure handcuff running backs. top 50, top 60 wide receivers probably off the board, and we're already in kind of the QB2s going there too. So Kincaid for me, like when you're looking at these round 11, 12 and beyond darts, like you want someone with a reasonable chance that's not completely injury contingent to boom up the ranks in a hurry. Kincaid has that in spades. So he's my favorite late round tight end of 2026 because again, I think we have the talent, all right? I know we have the offense. I know we have the quarterback, and I know we have pretty lackluster target competition overall. We just need to get more snaps on the field, something that I do think is in play, given that his health is improving. So all in on Dalton Kincaid in the year 2026. What could go wrong? Well, if it does go wrong, I'm drafting Isaiah Likely from the Giants, guys. My second favorite tight end in the late round cohort this year. Tight end 14 right now, ADP, pick 133, so going right there alongside Mr. Dalton Kincaid. I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing him going earlier and earlier, though, because we have gotten news more recently that the Giants don't sound so great about Malik Neighbors being ready for week one, because you look at this depth chart after Malik Neighbors, we got Malachi Fields, go Irish, go Virginia as well. He was there, but guy who many, including myself, weren't exactly over-enthused about, all right, coming out of college, day 2 pick for a reason, but whatever. Malachi Fields, Darnell Mooney, Darius Slayton, Theo Johnson's there. Like, we're not afraid of that target competition at all right? We've already had Harbaugh talking about Likely when he gave him $40 million to come to New York, guys. Like, that's a lot of freaking money. Not many tight ends are making $40 million per year. In fact, it's not many at all. I think it's 6 or 7. So again, Isaiah Likely, he's getting paid the money now. He's in an offense with a depth chart that we are not scared of at all. And you look more and more at this situation. Would it surprise us at all if Likely is a number 2 pass game option for Jackson Dart, who I thought did some good things in year 1? No, it shouldn't surprise us at all. So side note, not aesthetically, but anecdotally, I guess, Likely and Lamar Jackson really seem to have some of their best moments on the scramble drill, okay? I think back to that, crazy week 1 he had against the Chiefs in that awesome Ravens, Chiefs game where we all went crazy on the waiver wire for Likely week 2, scored this long, awesome yak touchdown. He was like a toe of his cleat away from, hopefully tying the game there at the end of regulation. So he just works so well with Lamar. He's great in the yak game, but he's also good in finding soft spots in the zone, just finding ways to get open on the scramble drill. And that is such a big strength of what Jackson Dart brings to the table. So I think the fit in the offense is good. I think the money indicates we're going to see a newfound full-time role. I don't think there's ample competition around Likely that should be scaring us off in terms of the guys like Mooney and Slayton, because Neighbors is going to be the one, but we know that, okay? There's only a few tight ends that are going to be the number 1 there on offense, and it's Bowers, McBride, Warren and Loveland, maybe Fannin. Again, that's probably it, and that's why they're going to top 5 in the first place. So we can live with one, and the one guy ahead of him is actively banged up. We don't even know if he's going to be able to play in September. So very, very much in on Isaiah Likely. Dalton Kincaid is my number 1 favorite late-round bet for this season. Isaiah Likely, though, honestly, a very close number 2, to the point where also, if we're getting into August, and I know it's a nerdy fantasy thing to care a ton about these preseason snap counts, but the first team preseason snap counts we do care about, and hey, if Kincaid's still stuck at that, 50% that we're kind of worried about, and Likely all of a sudden is up at 80%, there is going to be some major adjustings of the ranks in the hurry, and people are going to be over their skis there for Isaiah Likely doing his thing. Next up, not my number 3 tight end. Honestly, probably could have eliminated Henry, who is going to be, 32 in December. Could have eliminated him because of the age thing, but I just wanted to give him a little bit of credit because he did have a very nice season last year, caught 7 touchdowns, finally got over 700 receiving yards with Drake May. So I don't think Henry has looked his age as much as, the Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce's, and even Dallas Goedert's of the world. And I think there's a scenario where, Drake May, second year, MVP runner-up, maybe continues getting better at football. Hunter Henry catches double-digit touchdowns in an offense that still, at this point in time, as I'm recording this on May 22nd, does not employ A.J. Brown. Like, there is a chance, a scenario where Hunter Henry leads this, again, very good passing offense and touchdowns, works as one of the top targets, and he, again, just kind of sneaks his way into the top 6. But I just feel like 2025 already felt like kind of the best case for him. I mentioned the good things he did, and he still barely cracked the top 12 tight ends. So, it just depends what kind of scoring we're even looking at. Actually was tight end 13 in PPR points per game. So A.J. Brown probably going there. I'll reassess if the AJB trade falls through. Kayshon Boutte's been someone they've been talking about trading as well. So don't want to be completely out on Hunter Henry. He's also a lot cheaper than Kincaid and also Isaiah Likely. We're talking pick 150 now, tight end 13. I think Henry's a really good number 2, number 3 tight end in best ball just for, again, some of the just more, I don't want to say guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in life and definitely not fantasy football, as we all know. But Again, could tight end 13, tight end 18, if you draft him there and he finishes tight end 10, that's a great pick. That's a great value. I think that's on the table for Henry. I very much doubt at this point in his career, given the likely more crowded nature once we get AJB involved. And then also, again, just age, father time catching up to him. Hunter Henry now someone I'm expecting to be one of the top late round tight ends of this season. But I do think Chig Okonkwo could be. Let's get Chiggy with it. Someone that's even cheaper than, again, Hunter Henry right now. If you want to say Chig Okonkwo, based on the price point, is the best late round tight end available in fantasy right now, I would not call you crazy. So looking at Okonkwo, man, rookie season in Tennessee, just ridiculous per route efficiency numbers. Again, he was up there with Travis Kelce as like the best tight ends and yards and targets per route run. And he looked good doing it, guys. Like they've used him as, I don't want to say a gadget, but you know, actually kind of handing him the ball here and there, actually using him as a fullback and run these wheel routes. Like they found kind of these play action shot plays to get him the football. They've designed, that's a better way to put it. They've designed specific looks to get Chig the ball. And he has honestly really, you know, repaid the Titans with some good plays along the way. Last year, just awesome yak play against the Saints. Did a lot of good things. And again, he has this fun combination where you can throw him screens, you can throw him crossers, and he's going to be good with the football in his hands. But also, he can work downfield a little bit and do things down the seam and do things down the sideline on wheels and stuff like that. So he's a complete tight end, but it just brings us back to that question, kind of like the same Isaiah Likely thing. Will he actually be able to get a full-time role, or are they going to be viewing him more so as this, you know, you can't quite play in line. We'll put you out there for pass downs, but you're going to have more of a 50, 60% route rate instead of a 75, 80%. I'm optimistic, though, because not quite in the same extent as Likely, but still, he got paid, all right? Zach Ertz, no longer in Washington, at least for the time being. $9 million per year for Chig Okonkwo, $27 million across 3 years. So we're feeling good about him having a pretty solid role because you look at the depth chart, John Bates, Ben Sinnott. Maybe we do see, again, that ever catching up phase, whatever you want to call it, in the NFL, using a more 12 and 13 personnel, one running back, 2 or 3 tight ends. Maybe it catches up in Washington, but Chig, from the other standpoint, yeah, you could say, Bates and Sinnott are going to be playing a lot there, and they kind of stop his full-time role. That's kind of the bear case that I'm explaining out here and laying out. But on the other hand, if we are going to see more multi-tight end stuff, and it's Terry McLaurin, it's Chig Okonkwo, and then it's John Bates and Ben Sinnott as the other guys on the field, like, I am less scared of Bates and Sinnott than I am, you know, Antonio Williams, than I am going to be, you know, Diami Brown or Jalen Lane or any of these other wide receivers we got going on in Washington. Like, the thing about the 12 and 13 tight end personnel, yeah, it's more tight ends on the field, but if they're blocking tight ends, that's kind of good for everyone else. That is not going to be asked to block when they are out there. Less target competition when you're actually on the field. So I'm optimistic that Chig can, again, survive some of that, you know, extra tight end usage to still have a near full-time role. And if that's the case, guys, we got Jaden Daniels, who's 1 year removed from, I don't know, one of the best rookie seasons we've seen in recent memory. And the only other target competition is 31-year-old wide receiver 1, Terry McLaurin. So again, I like Antonio Williams as well. I'm not saying he couldn't be a number 2 target in this offense, but Chig Okonkwo has a chance to be, and he also has that profile, thanks to the great yak skills, to do his best Tucker Kraft impression and make the most out of, you know, a lesser target share, even though he might not even have to do that in the first place. So again, legit yak threat, stepping into what sure looks like a new every down opportunity alongside a young, very good potentially quarterback and a wide open offense. Clear, rational path to Okonkwo smashing ADP. He's my 3rd favorite late round target of the group. Of course, told you guys that, you know, I was going to name my top 3. So we already have done that. Dalton, Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, and Chig Okonkwo. These last 2, though, I want to go over. Still very good picks at value. So do not leave me just yet, ladies and mostly gentlemen. Did want to give some shout out to Gunnar Helm here. Just a tight end 25, pick 179 ADP. Did some good things last year, though, all right? You look at some of these charts where it's, again, yards and targets per route run. You will see Gunnar Helm's name up there alongside, you know, some of the Colston Lovelands of the world. And again, these other top performing and just, again, smaller sample size perhaps, but still making the most of their opportunities when they were given to them. So maybe Helm in an offense that should be a little bit better. Year 2, Cam Ward. I'm a big fan of the guy, and I do think Brian Dable could give this offense hopefully a little bit of an upgrade. Did good work with Jackson Dart, Daniel Jones, at least for that 1 year. But man, just more and more looking at it, even if Gunnar Helm gets the full-time role, Carnell Tate, Wan'Dale Robinson, Calvin Ridley, then Gunnar Helm. Like, that's how we're going to be kind of breaking down the targets. And then also, I do get worried where Likely goes to the Giants, okay? And they got Theo Johnson, who's fine and good, but, you know, Likely's coming with Harbaugh, okay? He got paid a lot of money. I do think Likely is going to be pretty clearly the tight end 1. Chig comes to Washington. Kind of same thing. There's a new OC there, all right? And they paid Chig. Ertz is gone. we're not taking that big of a leap of faith to assume that Chig's going to be the tight end 1 in Washington and that likely is going to be the tight end 1 in Tennessee. I'm sorry, likely is tight end 1 in New York. This is a little bit different with Gunnar in Tennessee. We do have to make that leap of faith because Brian Daboll's BFF, Daniel Bellinger, is getting a pretty penny to come over there in Tennessee. So Bellinger is more of a block first tight end. I get it. Theo Johnson was their primary receiver with the Giants, but I'm concerned enough that Bellinger could make this 50-50. Even 60-40, which is not enough for Helm when, again, we're already, even if he's playing 100% of the routes, likely going to be a number 4 pass game option in an offense that, even if we get an improvement for Cam Ward, probably still going to be, closer to 32 than number 1 when it's all said and done looking at the passing production. So, again, Helm, tight end 25, personally, perfectly fine late round click if you're just looking to get someone out there to fill out the squad. Do we actually have that top 6 league winning upside, as the kids might say? I do not think so. Last one, Greg Dulcich. I know there's still some Greg Dulcich truthers out there, and for good reason, man. He has flashed some fun receiving skills, which again is half the battle when trying to look at these tight ends. So still only 26 years old, and hilariously enough, guys, you do look at what he was able to kind of pull off last season. One of the more efficient tight ends that we actually were able to get in fantasy football land. Small sample size be damned. But no, seriously, his yards per route run up there with guys like Dalton Kincaid. Legit. I think Dulcich was second last season, which is wild. So again, small sample. But the problem here is, and I guess I would say the difference, I just don't exactly see Dulcich getting that chance to rise up the same way. Why were Kincaid's routes limited? Because he was injured. Why were Dulcich's routes limited? Because I don't think any offense, and he's been on several teams at this point, actually trusts him to be an every down tight end. So yeah, if they just keep him on the bench for rundowns and they bring him out every time they pass, that's fine. We don't get extra fantasy points for blocking anyway. But a little more similar to Gunnar Helm, we have relevant competition and a guy who I do think is capable enough catching the ball to be a thorn in Dulcich's side. So Will Kazmarek from the Ohio State University, the Ohio Bobcats before, a more traditional inline option. And honestly, we kind of saw Will already do this to a receiving friendly tight end in Columbus last year, right? Max Clare, awesome tight end for Purdue. Maybe he's going to do his thing with the Los Angeles Rams here over the next few years, but Clare came to Ohio State, and yeah, he had his own problems, trying to catch passes behind Jeremiah Smith, behind Carnell Tate, even Brandon Ennis doing his thing. But Max Clare would just lose out in these multi-tight end formations a lot, and Will Kazmarek was a big reason why. So again, Will, not exactly someone who I'm expecting to get 60, 70 targets in his own right, but I think he's capable enough to limit Dulcich from getting this, again, high target share, and also just the high route rate, up in the 80% or so. So again, enough concerns there. And an offense that figures to absolutely suck. Again, basically our lowest projected passing game over here at Fantasy Life with Malik Willis in town. Just tough enough for me to not exactly be going crazy for Greg Dulcich. But tight end 32, guys, pick 210. How can you be hating that value? And I will say, for those of you playing best ball right now, there is this fun kind of phenomenon. We've had it. The Panthers have been in the past. I remember that you could do it with the Steelers last year, but it's that break glass in case of emergency quarterback kind of situation, like you're drafting and you've been waiting to get your Kyler Murray or Jordan Love or your Tyler Shuck, and you're getting sniped, pissing you off. They don't even have stacking partners. Freaking people, man. I get it. It's pissing you off. Malik Willis is still going late enough. And here's the fun thing about Malik Willis, all right? You don't necessarily need to stack anyone with him because he's going to get most of his fantasy points, you would like to think, from running the ball anyway. But Chris Bell, we'll see if he makes the pup list or not. Caleb Douglas, all right, the guy they actually drafted before Chris Bell, and Greg Dulcich, they're all going later than Malik Willis anyway. So Malik Willis is the rare late-round quarterback who you can actually still stack up with his receivers because of how late they're going. So Greg Dulcich, again, while I don't expect him to have this top 6 upside, I am reserving that for Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, and Chigozie Okonkwo. I do think, man, pick 32, definitely capable of, again, maybe even creeping into that low-end tight end 1 conversation. More realistically, boomer, mostly bust tight end 2, but again, enough things going Dulcich's way in terms of him being a receiving friendly threat and having just empty target competition as a whole to like him as a very, very late round dart in fantasy football land. That's going to wrap it up for me, though, guys. Let me know if you think I missed any potential late-round tight ends out there, or if I made a wrong assumption, with someone I cut. Again, Oronde Gadsden is someone where I could see just the Chargers offense taking off, and he makes the most out of, a 60% route rate, just a little bit more worried about David Njoku. And I do think that, again, Maybe AJ Barner, somebody that talk about it. Like AJ Barner and Bretton Strange, they are in these offenses where we've seen Sam Darnold and Trevor Lawrence, like they can in the right season throw for 30, 40 touchdowns out here. And if they're going to do that, maybe their tight end emerges as the key red zone threat. Maybe they make me look like a big, stupid idiot by the time the season's over for not giving them more of a highlight, but wouldn't be the first, won't be the last, I'm sure either. So again, hit me with your favorite late round tight ends, but for now, mine, Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, and Chig Okonkwo. So happy drafting, and until next time, everybody, take care.